My son William called me just days before his wedding. His voice was cold, rehearsed, and sharp. "Mom, Ashley doesn't feel comfortable with you at the ceremony. You'll make it awkward. Please, don't come." The line went silent. My heart pounded, but I didn't cry. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and whispered to myself, "Fine. If I'm not welcome as a guest, I'll make sure they remember me another way." What came next would become the most viral wedding video of the year.
Before I tell you exactly how a retired grandmother turned her son's perfect beach wedding into the ultimate lesson in family loyalty, make sure you subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a story like this. And tell me in the comments, if your own child disrespected you this way, would you stay silent or would you make them regret it?
I always imagined that when my only son, William, finally got married, I'd be standing there with pride in my eyes. I pictured walking into the ceremony, hearing the waves crash against the shore, maybe holding a small bouquet just for myself, dressed in something elegant and understated. I raised him alone after his father passed away. Every scraped knee, every science fair project, every sleepless night of teenage rebellion, it was me, just me. So when William finally told me he was marrying Ashley, I thought it was my moment too, my reward for the years of sacrifice. But that phone call, it crushed me in ways I never thought possible. It was a Wednesday evening. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a fiery orange. I was knitting in my little seaside cottage when the phone rang. William's number. My heart jumped. Maybe he was calling to ask if I wanted to do a reading at the ceremony or to help with some of the preparations. Instead, his voice was tense. "Mom, listen, I don't know how to say this, but Ashley feels, well, she feels like your presence at the wedding would make things awkward." I froze. Awkward? William, I'm your mother. "I know, Mom, I know," he rushed, as if he had rehearsed. "But Ashley wants everything perfect. She thinks maybe it's better if you don't come." His words felt like knives. After everything I'd done for that boy, the endless double shifts at the health department, the nights I went hungry so he could eat, the years of holding myself together so he'd never feel the full weight of losing his father, he was uninviting me.
I could hear my breath, sharp and uneven. My hands trembled, gripping the phone so tightly I thought it might shatter. "So, I'm not welcome at my own son's wedding?" Silence. Then his weak reply, "It's just one day, Mom. Please try to understand." One day? No. This was the day. The day I had waited for. The day that symbolized the culmination of all my sacrifices. And he was choosing her comfort over my dignity. When I hung up, my chest was heavy, but I didn't cry. Not a single tear. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a generous glass of wine, and sat at the table, staring at the waves outside. My life had taught me one thing. Grief can either break you or forge you into steel. That night, steel was all I felt. Ashley had always been polite, but distant. A pretty girl with a sharp tongue and eyes that scanned a room like she was measuring who was worthy. From the start, I sensed she saw me as beneath her. I didn't have the money her family did. I didn't wear designer clothes or spend afternoons at golf clubs. I was a retired health worker who still clipped coupons and drove an old sedan. Ashley never said it out loud, but her subtle glances, her forced smiles, they screamed it. And now, she had found the perfect excuse to erase me completely. But here's where she underestimated me. I might have been 68, retired, and living quietly by the shore, but I wasn't powerless. I had connections from my career, I knew how to work with people, and I understood the art of timing. And most importantly, I had the stubborn resilience of a woman who had raised a son alone through storms Ashley couldn't begin to imagine.
So, while the waves rolled in outside my window, I picked up a notebook and began to write. Plans. Ideas. A scheme that would make sure William's perfect beach wedding would be remembered, but not for Ashley's fairy tale dress or their carefully staged photographs. It would be remembered for me. Not out of spite, but as a reminder to my son that you cannot erase your mother from your story without consequences. A reminder to Ashley that class, money, and appearances don't outweigh blood, loyalty, and truth. By midnight, my plan was clear. I closed my notebook, finished the last sip of wine, and smiled to myself. They didn't want me there as a guest? Fine. Then I'd arrive in a way they'd never forget. The next morning, I began making phone calls to old friends, to colleagues I hadn't spoken to in years. I needed help setting up what would soon become the most viral wedding video of the year. And as I made each call, I felt lighter, stronger, more alive. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a spark. They had tried to humiliate me, but when the time came, it wouldn't be me standing red-faced in front of the crowd. It would be them.
The morning after William's phone call, I woke up with a strange clarity. No tears, no confusion, no begging for scraps of affection. I wasn't the desperate mother anymore. I was the strategist. I brewed my coffee, sat by the window overlooking the beach, and reopened the notebook I had started the night before. Across the top of the page, in bold letters, I wrote, "Ashley thinks she erased me. Let's make sure she remembers." I started small, with research. Beach weddings were tricky. Open spaces, outdoor setups, everything visible. Perfect for slipping in unnoticed if you knew what you were doing. But crashing the wedding wasn't enough. That would just make me look pathetic. I needed something precise, something that would sting, but also make them think. I thought about Ashley, the way she bragged about her social media following, how she and William spent hours posing for photos at dinners, how everything in her life had to be aesthetically perfect. She didn't just want a wedding, she wanted a viral wedding. Well, she was about to get one. I made a list of everything she valued: image, reputation, control. Then I circled the word image 3 times. That was the weapon. The first call I made was to Karen, an old colleague from the health department. She had left the job years ago to start her own event planning business. I remembered her once telling me she could get into any wedding, party, or corporate gala if she needed to. Suppliers loved her, vendors owed her favors, and she had a way of blending into the background like she belonged everywhere.
When she picked up the phone, her voice was still as sharp as I remembered. "Ellen, it's been years. What's got you calling me out of the blue?" I didn't bother hiding my situation. I told her everything. About the phone call, about Ashley's demand that I stay away, about how my son, my William, had agreed. She hissed. "That's rotten, Ellen, after everything you did for that boy." "Exactly," I said. So I'm not asking you to throw me a pity party. I'm asking if you can help me be seen just once at the right moment. There was a pause, and then Karen laughed softly. Oh, I can do more than that. I'll get you in. You leave the details to me. Relief flooded me. The first piece of the puzzle was in place. Next, I called Martin, a journalist friend. Back in the day, he had covered a scandal at the health department, and while it had been messy, we'd ended up respecting each other. Martin owed me a favor, and Martin had a camera crew. When I explained what I wanted, a little discreet coverage of a society wedding framed as a human interest piece, he chuckled. So you want your son and his bride on the front page for the wrong reasons? I sipped my coffee, savoring the taste. No, I want them on the front page for the real reasons. By the time I hung up, I had secured not only an entrance, but also an audience. For days, I planned. Karen kept me updated. The caterers were local, the photographers were from out of state, and the security was laughable. She would slip me in as extra staff. Martin would arrive as to cover the local beach wedding trend. And I would wait until the perfect moment, when Ashley was glowing under the spotlight, when William was basking in the illusion of perfection, to make my presence known. But it wasn't enough to just show up. I wanted symbolism, something that would hit them harder than words ever could.
That's when I found the old photo album. It was tucked away in the bottom drawer of my dresser, covered in dust. Inside were pictures of William's childhood, his first steps, his awkward braces phase, the birthday cakes I scraped money together to buy. Even the one where the frosting was lopsided because I was too exhausted from a double shift. I looked at those pictures and felt both love and fury. Love for the boy I had raised, fury at the man he had become. And then it clicked. I would bring this album to the wedding, not as a prop to wave around like a fool, but as a gift. A gift that said, you may erase me publicly, but privately, your life is built on me. The idea was perfect, small, intimate, yet devastating. The week of the wedding arrived, and Ashley's smugness practically radiated through social media. Every day she posted something new, a picture of her dress fabric, a close-up of the floral arrangements, even a shot of William trying on his suit. They were staging their lives for applause. Each post only fueled me further. On the morning of the wedding, I dressed simply. A navy blue dress, modest jewelry, hair pinned back. I looked like any other guest, not desperate or disheveled. Karen met me outside the venue, her clipboard in hand, barking orders like she owned the place. Nobody questioned me as I slipped in behind her. My heart hammered as I walked across the sand, the salty breeze whipping against my face. Guests were already seated, the ocean sparkling behind the altar. Ashley looked radiant, of course, with photographers buzzing around her like flies. William stood at the front, smiling nervously. And there I was, invisible, yet right in the center of it all. Karen squeezed my arm and whispered, "Remember, timing is everything. Don't move too soon." I nodded. She was right. I had to wait. I had to let Ashley and William bask in their perfect moment. Let them think they had won. But when I finally stepped forward, it wouldn't just be a mother crashing a wedding. It would be a reckoning.
The ceremony began. The music swelled and the guests rose to their feet as Ashley made her grand entrance. She floated down the aisle in her pearl white gown, her veil catching the sunlight, her every step deliberate. It was exactly what she had always wanted, a stage. I stood off to the side, disguised as one of the catering assistants. A tray of champagne glasses rested in my hands, though I doubt I could have balanced them if anyone had actually asked me to serve. My palms were slick with sweat, my heart pounding. William looked at Ashley the way young men often look at women they've confused for angels, blinded by beauty, ignoring the claws beneath. For a moment, I felt a pang of sorrow. That was my son up there, the boy I raised, the one I had shielded from bullies, stitched up after playground fights, and taught how to ride a bike. And now, he had chosen a woman who thought I was an embarrassment. The officiant spoke, his voice carrying over the waves. Vows were exchanged, promises made. The audience oohed and awed in Ashley's theatrics, the delicate tears she dabbed at her cheek, the rehearsed laugh. I almost applauded. She could have won an Oscar. Then came the moment that shifted everything. The officiant declared them husband and wife. The crowd erupted into applause. The newlyweds kissed, photographers captured every angle, and I knew this was my cue. Karen appeared at my side, murmuring, "Now or never." I nodded, set down the tray, and walked forward, slowly, calmly. No hysteria, no dramatics, just presence. At first, nobody noticed. Why would they? I was just another worker moving among the guests. But when I reached the front row and stood still, people began to murmur. Heads turned. Confusion rippled through the air like a silent wave. Ashley saw me first. Her smile faltered. William followed her gaze and his face drained of color. "Mom?" he whispered, disbelief etched across his features. Ashley recovered faster than him, plastering on a brittle smile. "Security," she hissed, her voice low but urgent. "Get her out." But there was no security rushing forward. Karen had seen to that. The staff knew I was part of the team. Instead, I opened my bag and pulled out the photo album. I didn't wave it around. I didn't shout. I simply held it up and placed it gently on the table near the officiant stand, right next to the marriage certificate. The murmurs grew louder. Guests leaned in, curious. Photographers, never ones to miss a shift in tension, began snapping shots. Ashley's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice rising. I looked at her with calm clarity. "Just leaving a gift for my son. A reminder." William's brows furrowed as he reached for the album. He flipped it open, and immediately his childhood spilled out in photographs. His first birthday cake, his soccer games, his crooked smile in middle school. The guests leaned closer, whispers filled the air. Some smiled at the pictures, others cast questioning glances at William. But Ashley was livid. "This is pathetic," she snapped. "You're ruining our wedding." I tilted my head slightly. "No, Ashley. I'm reminding William where he came from, because while you prance around for cameras, his life, this life, began with me. Scraping together pennies for shoes, working double shifts to pay for braces, making sure he had every chance." William's lips parted. His hands lingered on the pictures. Ashley grabbed the album and tried to slant it shut, but a photograph slipped free, fluttering to the ground. Martin's camera crew zoomed in instantly, catching the image of me and William, covered in flour, baking cookies together in our tiny kitchen. The room went silent, except for the click of cameras. And then it happened. An older guest, Ashley's great-aunt, I think, piped up from the front row. "That's beautiful. Why would you ever exclude your mother from this day?" Ashley's face reddened.
She stammered. She's what? I cut in, my voice steady but sharp. Too poor? Too plain? Too real for your perfect picture? The silence grew heavier. Ashley's parents shifted uncomfortably. Guests exchanged looks, and William looked ashamed. The officiant, bless him, tried to regain control. Shall we move on to the reception? But the damage was already done. The carefully curated image Ashley had built, the perfect fairy tale, had cracked wide open, and Martin's cameras had captured every second. As the couple walked back down the aisle, guests still whispering, Ashley shot me a look of pure venom. But beneath it, I saw something else. Fear. Because she knew. This wedding wasn't going viral for its romance. It was going viral for its reckoning. And I wasn't finished yet.
The ceremony was over, but the tension followed us like a storm cloud. Guests shuffled toward the reception area, set up under white tents along the beach. String lights twinkled above, music played softly, but the energy was different now, fractured. People whispered in clusters, casting sidelong glances at me and at William. I didn't sit down. I didn't eat. I just stood near the edge of the tent, calm as the waves behind us, watching. Ashley, on the other hand, was unraveling. The moment we were away from the aisle, she pulled William aside, her face tight with rage. I couldn't hear every word, but I could read her lips. "Why didn't you stop her?" William's shoulders slumped. He looked like a boy again, cornered. Their argument grew louder. Guests nearby pretended to sip their champagne, though every ear was tuned in. Ashley hissed about embarrassment and ruined optics. William muttered something about, "She's still my mother." And that, right there, was my quiet victory. For the first time that day, William defended me. Not fully, not bravely, but enough to crack Ashley's control. Karen, my ally in the shadows, approached me with a sly grin. Cameras are rolling. Every second of that spat is being captured. I exhaled. Good. Let them see the truth. Dinner was served. Speeches followed. Ashley's maid of honor stood to toast, her voice trembling slightly as she praised Ashley's grace and strength. It sounded rehearsed, brittle. Then it was William's turn. He stood, glass in hand, looking down at Ashley like a man trying to convince himself he'd made the right choice. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," he said, his voice shaky. "And I want to thank my mom, even though—" He faltered, glancing at Ashley, who shot daggers at him. "Even though things have been complicated, she's the reason I'm standing here today." A murmur rippled through the tent. A few people clapped politely. Ashley slammed her champagne flute down so hard the stem snapped. Gasps filled the room. "Enough," she barked, her face twisted with fury. "This is my day, William. Not hers, not anyone else's. Mine." Silence. Guests froze. The only sound was the crash of the ocean outside. Martin's cameramen didn't move an inch. Their lenses drank in every second. Ashley's father tried to intervene, murmuring, "Ashley, sweetheart." But she whirled on him. "Don't you dare, Dad. You promised me this wedding would be perfect, that she wouldn't ruin it. And look." She jabbed her finger toward me. "She's here, and everything is falling apart." Dozens of eyes followed her finger and then shifted to me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just said, softly, "Perfection is fragile, Ashley. Maybe you should have built something stronger." The tent went deathly quiet. Ashley's face crumpled. For the first time, she looked less like a bride
and more like a spoiled child who didn't get her way. She tore off her veil, threw it to the ground, and stormed out of the tent barefoot, her expensive heels sinking into the sand. The photographers followed, flashes popping like fireworks.
William stayed behind, frozen in humiliation. Some guests tried to carry on with the meal, but the air was poisoned. Conversations circled around me, around Ashley's breakdown, around William's awkward defense. I didn't need to push any further. The damage was complete. Karen leaned toward me. You've officially staged the most dramatic wedding disaster of the decade. I chuckled under my breath, and I didn't even raise my voice. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, Ashley still hadn't returned. William sat slumped at the sweetheart table, alone, picking at his food. Guests began leaving early, muttering apologies, some patting my arm on the way out. But the real climax came later that night. Karen uploaded the footage, the argument, the broken glass, the meltdown, to a private channel she managed for exposés. Within hours, it was picked up by wedding blogs, gossip forums, and even mainstream outlets hungry for viral drama. The headline the next morning? Bride loses it at wedding. Groom's mother steals the show. Clips flooded TikTok. The moment Ashley snapped, the slam of her glass, my calm response, all replayed millions of times. Memes were made, hashtags trended, hashtag beach bride breakdown, hashtag mother knows best. Ashley had wanted her wedding to be unforgettable. It was, but not for the reasons she dreamed. And as I sat at home, sipping coffee the next morning, my phone buzzing with notifications, I smiled. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the invisible one. By the time Sunday morning rolled around, the internet was a firestorm. I woke to a dozen missed calls, my voicemail full, and my text inbox overflowing. But it wasn't my family reaching out. No, it was reporters, bloggers, and even daytime talk shows asking if I was the viral wedding mom. Karen's editing team had done their magic overnight. The video clips were sharp, cut perfectly to show the arc, the vows, the tension, William's stammering defense, Ashley's violent outburst, and finally, my calm line, perfection is fragile. Maybe you should have built something stronger. That one sentence was everywhere. People were quoting it like scripture. Someone even slapped it on a t-shirt designed by the afternoon. Meanwhile, Ashley's dream wedding became a worldwide punchline. Headlines blared, Bridezilla melts down on beach, groom helpless. Mother of groom outsmarts controlling bride at ceremony. Perfect wedding goes viral for all the wrong reasons. TikTok edits set to dramatic music showed Ashley storming out barefoot, her veil dragging in the sand like a scene from a soap opera. Instagram reels looped the moment she slammed her glass until it shattered. Even late-night comedians picked it up, chuckling about the most dramatic wedding since Game of Thrones. Ashley had wanted attention. She got it, but it came with a price. By Monday, her Instagram, once a shrine to staged couple photos and lifestyle bragging, was flooded with comments. Thousands of strangers mocked her, calling her champagne smash bride, veil toss Ashley, and worse. Wedding vendors who had once courted her for influencer deals quietly unfollowed her accounts. Brands pulled their partnerships. Ashley, the queen of image, had become a meme. And William? He was caught in the crossfire. At first, he didn't call me. Maybe he was ashamed. Maybe Ashley wouldn't let him.
But on Tuesday night, my phone finally rang. His voice was low, broken. "Mom, I don't know what to do." I let the silence stretch before answering. "You should have thought about that before you disinvited me, William." He sighed, and for the first time in years, he sounded like my little boy again. "I messed up. I shouldn't have let her treat you that way. I shouldn't have let me treat you that way." I didn't comfort him. Not yet. Actions have consequences. Yours are just playing out in front of the whole world. Ashley refused to apologize, of course. Instead, she doubled down, posting a shaky Instagram live video blaming toxic relatives and unsupportive in-laws. The comment section wasn't kind. People tore her apart, pointing out her cruelty and the entitlement dripping from every word. By the end of the week, William showed up at my house, alone. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He told me Ashley had moved back in with her parents, claiming she couldn't deal with the hate. Their honeymoon had been canceled, vendors demanding non-refundable payments. The dream life Ashley had built on image was crumbling. He sat at my kitchen table, staring at his hands. "I don't even know if I love her anymore, Mom, or if I just loved the idea of her." I poured him tea. Sometimes it takes a storm to clear the fog. We sat in silence for a while. For the first time, he looked at me not as the burden Ashley painted me to be, but as his mother, his only steady place in the chaos. That was the true revenge. Not the video, not the internet fame, but watching my son realize the truth for himself, that the woman he put before family, before me, had only been a hollow pedestal he was destined to fall from. Weeks passed. The video stayed viral. Life moved on for the world, but for Ashley and William, the consequences lingered. Ashley became a pariah in her influencer circles. No brand wanted champagne smash bride representing them. Her reputation was shredded beyond repair. William filed for an annulment 6 months later. It barely made a ripple in the news compared to their viral wedding disaster, but for me, it was the quiet end to a loud storm. And me? I kept living. People in my town recognize me now, not as Ellen the retiree, but as Ellen, the mom who handled chaos with grace. Strangers stopped me at the grocery store to say, "I loved your line about perfection." One woman told me, tears in her eyes, "I wish I had your strength with my own daughter-in-law." I never set out to be a symbol. I just refused to be erased. Sitting on my porch one evening, watching the sun sink into the horizon, I realized something. Revenge hadn't been the goal. Dignity had been. Ashley had tried to humiliate me, to erase me from my son's story. Instead, she erased herself. And all I had to do was show up, calm, steady, unshaken. William visits more often now. We're rebuilding, slowly. Sometimes we laugh about the memes, though there's still hurt in his eyes when he remembers. Healing takes time. But one thing is certain. I'll never let anyone make me invisible again. So when people ask if I regret what I did, I smile. No, I didn't ruin the wedding. I revealed the truth, and truth is always louder than champagne glasses shattering.